We're looking at one of our webinars in the Report Designer 2025 series this afternoon. So it should last around about 45 minutes, and it's Introduction to Expressions, so session 4 in the series that we've been running. Just before we get stuck in with expressions, so this will give you, again, another little step into the world of the Report Designer, giving you an idea of what it's capable of doing. But it is just an introductory session. So just to give you an idea of what it can do with what you can do with expressions. If you do want more information, detailed information, how to build detailed expressions, that type of thing, then you will find that available in our help center. But before we get stuck in, we'll quickly run through a little bit of housekeeping just for those of you that may be new to webinars. So as normal, if you have a microphone, which you don't need for these sessions, if you've enabled it, you'll find it's muted. That's done automatically. Can't unmute yourself during the session. Any questions that you might have for us today, you'll need to pop them into the questions panel. Just click the little speech bubble icon on your taskbar. It'll expand. You'll get access to that box at the bottom corner. Pop in your question, your comment, and click send, and we'll try and pick that up during the session. We're joined today by Laura and Abby. They'll be on hand to answer all of those questions. So you might get a straightforward answer, it might be a link to a help article, or if it's a bit more, maybe you discuss it a little bit more detail, might recommend that you get in touch with our support team. You can download a copy of today's slides during the session via the little icon on your toolbar as well. 2 versions during the session. There's the full color version of the slides that we use, and there's what we term the print-friendly version, where all the colors stripped out. A link to the handout will be available on the follow-up email as well. Now that follow-up email you will receive round about an hour after we finish, and that will include a link to today's recording, a link so you can download the handout, and also a link to our registration page, and also a link to our recordings page. So if you missed any sessions, recordings is a great way to catch up. Get that round about an hour after we finish. Now, as I say, today's the Introduction to Expressions is session number 4. We've still got sections and groups to cover, criteria, and also filters. And of course, there is the quiz as well. So we'll be running those final few sessions over the next 2 weeks. If you haven't yet signed up for them, watch out for your follow-up email, get yourself registered. Right, now this is what we're going to be covering in today's session. So introduction. So a little bit of background to expressions. We'll run through a series of demonstrations. It's very visual, the Report Designer, when there's not a lot of theory to it. So we'll be going through a number of demonstrations. So how you go about adding an expression, expressions using expressions. I've got a bit of a maths test for you as well, just to get you involved with via the Q&A panel a little bit. Expressions using brackets, and also an expression using data and text. So it's not just a simple multiply this by this. There are a number of options that you have available. So you'll see that in today's session. Just at the end, we'll explain more about the additional support, and if there are any outstanding questions, I'll try and join in with those if Abby and Laura leave any for me. If we don't get a chance to answer your question on the live on the webinar today, we'll just try and drop you an answer afterwards. Right, so let's get started. So we'll start with a basic introduction. So what is an expression? Well, basically, it tells the report designer what information to include in the report. So it's a way of calculating a value based on one or more values held within your Sage Accounts data. Now, it can be simply a way of stringing information together to present it in the way you want. Now, an expression, what you will generally think of is it's a formula. Now, it can include numbers, text, variables, or data fields, basically which your data names and tables it belongs to, such as the sales ledger account reference. So we'll cover that in the previous session where we looked at tables and variables. So it can include variables in there. You've got operators. So these can be words such as not or like, or your standard sort of mathematical symbols such as less than, multiply, minus, greater than, equal to. So you've got a number of options there as well, and probably they're the common ones that you're likely to use. Also, there's functions as well. Functions are used for, I suppose, more complex mathematical processing, such as string functions. Now, as you can probably imagine, there's essentially no limit to the variations of things you can do with expressions. They can be straightforward, or they can be quite complex. Now, today I'm looking for the straightforward element. This is just an introductory session. So we're going to get started and look at the sort of basic expressions, almost like approaching it as an introduction to the concept. So what we'll do, we'll get stuck in with some demonstrations. We'll amend some reports here and there. So I'll share my screen and we'll work through a basic example. Now, normally, if you've been on sort of report design webinars before, maybe you've dabbled yourself as well, you tend to start with basic reports or basic listing reports. And today is no different. I'm going to start with the customer list report. So we're going to pop into customers. We'll pop into reports. And then on the left, we'll pop into customer details. And then we've got the customer list report. Now, before I start amending that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to preview it so you can see the type of information that gets included on this report. I'll just accept the default criteria. And it'll preview the report for me. So this is just as you can see, it's a basic list of customer information. We've got the account reference, the name, the contact name, telephone number, and we've got an email address. And because I'm using the dummy data, just in case you're wondering, I think the demonstration data has the same email address entered against all of the dummy customer accounts that are included. Now, what I want to do, and yes, there are reports that will show this type of information already. I want to include a calculation or an expression that shows me the available credit. So if you think about from the customers as an example, how can I see the available credit? Well, it's a basic calculation, credit limit minus the balance. It doesn't show that on this list. You could, again, more than one way to crack the same nut. We could send that information to Excel and do a basic calculation. So credit limit column minus the balance column. It'll give us the available credit that we've got. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to amend the report that we just looked at, the customer list report, just so we can include that information. You can see how you can go about starting to build and add expressions to your reports. Right, okay, let's get back to reports. Go back to customer details, customer list. I'm going to edit the report. And as normal, what I'm going to do before I make any changes, I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to go to report, into report properties. And again, this is something that we covered for things like layouts as well. I'm going to change the name of that. So the customer list, I'm going to call it, I'll just put my initials at the beginning. And then I'll change the report description as well. Just keep it nice and simple. Just okay that. And what I'm also going to do, I'm going to go to File. Again, the Save option is grayed out. So I'll go to Save As and give it a new name. So today, I'll use today's date as well. So we'll do 09/10/25, just so I can easily find it. So I'll save that, and that's it done. Now I'll just quickly close out before we start adding in expressions. Obviously, we don't see it here. Where we do see it, because we've saved a copy of it, or maybe you've created your own report, I'll see it in the My Customer Reports folder. So there it is there. So I can easily find it as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flag it as a favorite. So click on the little star. It would be added to this folder. This is the default folder that appears when you first go into a specific reports area. Now, one little tip I would give you as well, if you've already amended your reports, So you've already done this and maybe you spot a typo. What you can do when you see a report is you can right click it and you've got the option to change name and description, which will bring up that report properties window that we looked at within the report designer itself. So you can change the report name and the customer list, the report description as well. Then you would just OK it and it would update it on that screen there. If it's a standard report, it won't let you change both of them. So if I just find a standard report very quickly, which actually just pick on the customer list, if I right click that one, choose change name and description, you'll see the name of the report itself is grayed out. So I've got to do that file save as before I can change both of those. Could change the description if I needed to though. Anyway, back to the report in question. So I'm going to highlight this one and we're going to click into edit it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear a little bit of space on this report. So let me just zoom in so you can see this a little bit clearer as well. So I'm just going to say, right, for the purpose of this demo, I don't need the telephone number. So I'll get rid of that. And let's say I'll also want to get rid of the email address. So I'm just clicking on it, highlights it, and then I press delete on the keyboard and it removes it. So we got a bit of space to play with for the purpose of this demo. I could have also just made the section bigger and had other information below it if I wanted to. Maybe made some of the information a bit narrower. But we've got some space over here on the right-hand side. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to add a data field, first of all, for the credit limit. So I want to include that information on my report. So I'm going to click Add Data Field, click approximately where you want to insert that data field. We'll get the Add Data Field window. Again, we could have gone via the variables option on the left there. But what we're after is the credit limit. So that's in the sales ledger table. And what I'm after is the credit limit. So I'll just scroll down and select that. Just OK it. And it pops it on there for me. So I'll just make it a little bit narrower as well. So with it selected, just make it a little bit narrower. What I'll also do, just to give us a little bit of structure as well, we'll put a heading in for it as well. So I'll just right click one of the existing headings. So I'll copy it and then just sort of right click in a blank part, paste it in, move it roughly into position. I'll double click it and then I should have that flashing cursor and I should be able to start typing and change the text at that point. Let's just preview it so we can see what that looks like. And other than the alignment of the text, looks all right. That's what I'd expect to see. Right. Next, I'm going to add a data field for the balance. So again, add data field. Just click approximately where you want to insert that. So it's on the sales ledger. Remember that article we talked about in session number 3? If you're not sure about the variable you need or which table it's on, you check that article in the help center. Search for which variable and it should find it. But we're after balance. In this case, it's on the sales ledger table. Again, I'll make that a little bit narrower. And again, I will just right click one of the existing headings, copy it, and then right click and paste that in. Just move it approximately into position. I'll then double click it. And I'm just going to delete what's there. And I'll just type in the word balance for the heading of that field. Maybe make that title a bit narrower as well. Click off it, happy with it. Right, so at that point, if I just again preview it, you can see we've added those extra fields. So we've got the credit limit on there, we've got the balance on there as well. What we want to do next is, this is where we're going to get involved with expressions. So the expression we're after is credit limit minus balance. I'm going to insert an expression in in the space to the right there. Right, so back to designer view. We'll just nudge that over just a touch, and just to give us lots of space. Just move it into position. Drag that one as well. Right, that'll do. Right, so next we're going to go to, at the top, go to the toolbox menu, and we've got an option, add expression. Now, if you're going to be doing this a lot on the reports that you're on, what you can do is you can, on a blank part of your toolbar, just right click and you've got this toolbox advanced. If I click on that, you'll see it gives me some extra options. So I've got an add expression option in there if I want it. But if you're not doing that many, you might as well just hide that toolbar and just go off the toolbox menu. So I click toolbox, add expression, and I click approximately where I want to insert that calculation or expression. Now this brings up the expression editor, and you'll see this quite a bit when you're working in the report designer. So you'll see it if you say you double click a variable that's on your report, the expression editor will pop up, and it would give you the name of the table and the variable in this section here. Right. Now, just to quickly explain a little bit about the expression editor, we've got this sort of big left-hand pane here. This is going to show any expression that you might already have. So it's where you'll see your expression as and when you build it and add it in. The right-hand side, so this section here, is split into two. So top one is your functions. So the functions panel, it contains these, I suppose, what you term the different instructions you can give Report Designer. So it will tell it how to treat the information you're working with. Now there's a huge number of functions. Again, some of them are grouped together. And again, they can obviously change how information is presented or calculated. Now for the areas we're looking at today, we're really only going to use some of the functions, and they're going to be from the operators folder. It's this one here. Now they're not in alphabetical order, just in case you were looking at that one. Don't know why that one's sort of out of sync, but there you go. So if you expand operators, you'll see the kind of operators that you can use. So these are what I would term your standard sort of mathematical symbols. So you've got plus, minus, multiply, divide, percentage sign, equals, and then you've got some text-based ones as well. So not like, and, or, true, etc. So probably for most people, you probably find that they're the main ones that you're ever going to use. But obviously there's a lot more complex ones than that. Just collapse it down. You've got like string functions and lots of them in there. So there's lots to play with. But as I say, for the vast majority, you'll probably only use the ones in the operators. Now the bottom panel here, the fields panel, it contains the tables and variables, or those data fields that you can work with on the report or layout that you're editing. It'll also show any existing expressions that are included on the report as well. So remember, a table is an area of your Sage Accounts data, and it's named to represent the information in that area. So things like audit header, audit split, company, which refers to your company information. So the information that's held within company preferences. And a bit further down, we've got the sales ledger one in there as well. So a sales ledger referring to your customer record information, not transactional information, but more like your things like names, address. You've got top level information such as credit limit in there, and also balance that we've already inserted onto the report. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly add an expression. So I want to do credit limit minus balance. So it's both in the sales ledger, those ones. So I'll just find credit limit. There it is. I'll double click it. You'll see when I do that, it adds this into the sort of the preview panel on the right. So we're doing new credit limit. Now I could at that point, if I just click at the end of that, I could go to the operators panel and I could double click the minus sign, or because it's nice and straightforward, I can just use it on the keyboard as well. I can type in that minus sign. Doesn't matter about leaving spaces for this type of calculation. So I want credit limit minus balance. Balance also being on the sales ledger table. So we'll just scroll up a little bit to find that one. There it is. I'll double click it, and that's it done. So we've got credit limit minus balance. At that point, I'm just going to click OK, and it pops it onto the report for me. Now it's called it AXPR3, so it gives it a standard name. Now you can rename it if you want to. Just be a case of me highlighting it, going into properties at the top here, and then we just need to find the name itself. Now there is a divide here. So it makes it, sometimes when you open it, you might find when it's like that, you can't really see what the options are. So find the divide and just drag it across. The one we're after is in the design section. So I can click there and I could rename it if I wanted to. So it might be a bit more meaningful if you actually, you know, when you're looking at the design of the report, rather than have to click it to find out what that expression means. I'll just leave it as that for now though. Collapse that down. Right, what I'll do at that point, obviously we know it's for available credit at this point. We could put a title in if we wanted to, just to save a little bit of time. We'll not do it this time round. So I'll click off it. Obviously it's picked up the format from the previous one I'd inserted. Remember, if you want to change the format and make it look consistent, find something that looks how you want it. So this balance one as an example, it says the style is heading. So I click back to expression 3 and then reselect the heading style from the drop down. Oh, try that one again. I've got that one right. Make sure I've got, oh, it's that one's gone into the wrong thing. Right, just change it to criteria details. That's obviously the one it should be picking up. There we go. So it should be in the same as these ones. I haven't changed the one for that one. Right, click off it. And what I'll do is I will just preview that at the bottom. A little button there at the bottom. Just OK that. And we can now see it's inserted and done that calculation for us. Now, obviously, I haven't done the alignment of that box just yet. Obviously, it just makes it easy just to align everything to the right. So we've got all the decimal points in the right place, etc. Click on it. Just align it. Obviously, it looks a lot neater then. So we can see the available credit at that point. Obviously, some do have a negative where on this dummy set of data, they've got a much larger balance than the actual credit limit itself. But that's the basics of adding an expression. Now, if I was happy with that, so here we are. Right, I'm just going to go back to the designer view. Let's pin this at the bottom again. So let's say we're happy with that one. I'll just save the changes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out as well. So save it and file and exit. Now, someone did mention they were having a bit bother with the preview option. If you are finding that, it might just be the level of data that you have. So if you are finding that when you're using that preview option, probably the best option is just to close out completely back to the likes of, say, your customer list, and then I could maybe highlight one or two, and then just go back into reports. I've got it flagged as a favorite. I can just quickly preview that one to see what it looks like. If you've got thousands and thousands of customers, when you're clicking that preview within the report designer, it'll try and run that report for everything that you've got listed. Now remember, as we mentioned in previous sessions as well, there's often more than one way to crack the same nut. So what we've just done there, nice simple calculation. If it was just something as simple as that, you don't necessarily need to go and edit a report and add an expression. It could be as simple as, right, we send the information to Excel and we've got the relevant information listed that we're going to need in Excel. And then once it's transferred, again, we could just do a simple calculation of credit limit minus balance, copy that down. You've achieved the same sort of result. Right, okay. Let's just close out of Excel. Next, I'm going to add another expression to that report we've just looked at. And what I want to do this time is, rather than just being a value, I want to say, right, what's the percentage of credit available? So I'm going to add in another expression. So we'll highlight that report that we've been amending so far, edit it. And we're going to put another expression on the end here. So remember, toolbox, expression, and just click approximately where we want to insert that expression. Now, the expression for available credit, we're going to look at that essentially as a percentage. What we're after is think about what that calculation would be in real life. So we want credit limit minus balance, dividing that result by the credit limit, and I want to multiply it by 100 to give me that available credit as a percentage. Now, if I insert that expression, so we're going to build it. Now, the first part's already done, credit limit minus balance. It's called expression 3. So I don't necessarily need to include, although I could put that full expression in there again. So I could do credit limit minus balance divided by credit limit times 100, or I could just do expression 3. I'm then going to divide that by the credit limit. Credit limit I'm going to need to select again. So back into sales ledger. Find the credit limit. We'll click it, it'll pop it in there for me. So I've got expression 3 divided by the credit limit, and then I'm going to multiply that by 100. So I can just type that part in. Now, if I wanted to, I can put spaces in as well. So sometimes it can make it a little bit easier to read. So I could include spaces in that calculation. It'll not do anything with the spaces, doesn't matter whether you have them or not. It's just a basic calculation. So I'll just quickly OK that. We'll make it a little bit narrower and just move it across a bit so it fits on nicely. And what I'll do is I'll just quickly preview it. Just OK that. And it's telling us now that, well, if you zoom in, so hopefully you can see that. So just as an example, this first account, we've got 97.84% of available credit on that account. Now again, obviously I haven't formatted that very well. It's the same format as this one, but actually it's not the same format as the other information on there. So again, if you wanted to quickly do that, just back into your design view, select what it is you want to change. I want it to look like these ones here. So if I just click credit limit, I can see the style attached to that is criteria details, highlight balance, choose criteria details, and I'll repeat that for expression 4. And I'll just right align that one. Bit of alignment on that one as well. And if we just take a quick quick preview. Again, it should look okay now. Now, if you were wanting to include things like a percentage, and what I could do for this one, let's quickly show you this one as well. So if I highlight expression 4, and then what I'm going to do is pop into Properties panel. In the Properties panel, I'm looking for the formatting section. Again, I'll need to just widen that a little bit. So it's the formatting option. Here it is. Click into it. And what I want to do is I want to show it as a currency. So on numeric, I want to show as currency. And then I want to use the custom formatting. And then I can just type in a percentage sign. And we can see what that's going to look like. And all we need to do on the format, where's it gone again? The format, couldn't see it for looking. I just choose what I want that to look like. So you can see it gives you a few various options. I just need to choose where I want that symbol to appear. So I want it to appear at the end. This will give you a rough idea of what that's going to look like. So just yes to that. Sorry, no to that prompt. And that should be it done. So let's just have a quick peep to see what it looks like. We've now got that percentage symbol in there. Again, little tricks like that, you will find that type of information. So Neil, you mentioned there about can you show minus figures in brackets? Yeah, you can do that. So you'll see negative figures here. It is actually showing in brackets as the percentage. Isn't on the available credit, it's showing actually the minus sign. Again, it would just be a case of going through that numerical formatting. Great article in the Help Center on numerical formatting if you want that. Right, let's go back to the design view. Now this expression that we've just added, what we did was we used expression 3. So part of that calculation is already done for us. Now what I'm going to do is it's going to get you involved a little bit at this stage. So I'm going to go back to the slide for a moment. And I've got a little bit of a maths test. And you probably see this type of thing on social media quite often as well. So answer the following. Put your answer in the questions panel. What do you think it is? What do you think the answer to that is? So 2 + 2 × 5. So what do you think it is? So you work it out and pop an answer in the questions panel. Let's see what we get. What a difference straight away. Again, that's continued through the answers as well. So we've got loads of people saying, why it's 12. Loads of people saying it's 20. And it depends, I suppose it depends on the way you've done it. So if you've done 2 + 2 in your head and then you multiplied it by 5 to get you 20, or have you done 2 × 5 to give you 10, then added on the 2. So you need to be specific when you're dealing with expressions. What do you want? Now, for those of you, if you remember going back to when you were at school and you did maths, you might remember the BODMAS rule. So just an acronym to basically help you remember the order of mathematical operations. So what takes sort of precedence? So brackets comes first, then orders, division, multiply, addition, and subtraction. There's also, you might have heard of it called, I think these days it's referred to as BIDMAS. It's a bit more up to date these days. Not sure when that changed, but certainly when I was in school, it was BODMAS. But essentially the same thing. So brackets, indices, division and multiplication, addition, then subtraction. So that's essentially the order that takes. So if you were to go back to that, multiply comes before addition, so you would do the 2 times 5 and then add the 2. So applying that rule, the answer should have been 12 to that one. But you can see, obviously, sort of how you can misinterpret that. So what we're trying to say is, right, be careful when you're adding in expressions. And it's a bit like what I've just done. So if I go back to my screen for a moment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the expression. Now remember, part of that calculation is already done for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that part and I'm going to put the rest of it back in. So we're going to do sales ledger. I remember for the calculation, it was credit limit. Right, there it is. And then I wanted minus the balance on the account. So I'll just scroll back up to balance. So now we've got the full calculation in there with nothing sort of predefined. So it will use that, essentially that BODMAS ruling that we've just looked at. So we just okay that at that point. And then we'll preview the report. And it's now going to give us some, hopefully, should give us some interesting results. So you can see we've gone from having, let's zoom in so you can see that a little bit clearer. So we can now see we've gone from having sort of 97.84% available to having a slightly different calculation. And it's because of we haven't used any brackets or any sort of predefined expression within the expression itself. Just go back to the design. We'll double click on expression 4. So that first part, yes, it was already calculated as expression 3, which is why it previously worked. If I want to, I can put brackets around that bit, which will essentially achieve the same thing as saying, right, this bit is already calculated as expression 3. So I want it to calculate this bit first, then divide it by the sales ledger credit limit, and then multiply by 100. So sometimes the brackets can be very important. Let's just preview it again, and we should be back to the calculations we had earlier. So that it's achieving essentially the same thing. So do be a little bit careful when you're working with that one. Just have a good look at your expression and the result. Is it what you expected? And is it because maybe you need to insert some brackets in there or not? I hope that one makes sense. Now we can have expressions for text as well. So we could use that maybe as a way of building payment terms and conditions on invoices. So expressions aren't just for numeric values. So you can string them together from your Sage Accounts data. Let's take an example. Right, let's close out of this one. And if we quickly, let's close out. I'm going to close out of invoices, and just to mix things up a bit, we'll pop into invoices and we'll pick a report. And if we just go into invoice profits, and we'll do the profit report by customer, the summary, this one. So have a quick look at that report. Let's see what it shows. I'll just accept all that criteria. You can see what we've got there. Now, if we look at the report, we're not going to do a calculation this time, but what we can see is on this one, we've got customer, we've got the account reference, followed by, there's a big gap there, and then we've got that followed by the account name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an expression to merge some text, essentially. So we want to close that gap. You might be quite happy with it looking like that. But it's currently, if we look at the, go into the design of it, so we'll just quickly edit this. There's the edit option at the top. And currently these are two different variables. You've got the account reference and the account name. So we've got these two different data fields on the report. They'll be in that predefined sort of position. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete those. So I'll just highlight them one at a time, delete them. So we got that big gap there at this point. Now we could have just dragged them closer and closed up the gap. But what I'm going to do is I just want to show you how you can do that as an expression. So toolbox at the top, add expression, click into the relevant section, brings up the expression editor. And then what we're going to do is in this section, we're just going to build an expression for that. So first one we want is the, in this case, we're going to pull through from the invoice table. So just from invoice. I want to pull through the account reference. And then what I want is I want a dash. Now, because I want to include some text in there, I'll use the plus. Essentially, I'm going to use the plus sign. And then I'll put that, the dash within quotation marks, indicating it's text. Another plus sign. And then what I want is I want the account reference. Again, I'll find that on the invoice table. Sorry, the account name, I should say. I'm after name in this instance, this one. And then I can just OK that. Now, if I was happy with that, which I'll just click off it and I'll preview it so we can see what that looks like. Just OK that. And if we zoom in, we'll see the sort of effect that we get. So we've got A1D001, we've got a dash, and then we've got A1 Design as the company name. Now you might be happy with that, you might not be. We've got a little bit of overlapping as well, which is why it looks a little bit strange. But if I just go back to design view, let's just pin that to the side again. We'll double click on expression 1. What I'm going to do is I put some spaces in just to make it a little bit easier to read. Now it doesn't matter whether I put the spaces in there or not in amongst the calculation, but on the text bit, if I want to include some spacing, I need to put it within the quotation marks. So I'll put a space either side of that dash. You'll see essentially the effect that we get. Again, back to preview. Just OK that. And we can see the change that we get. So again, we've now got that format. So we've got the account reference, then we've got space dash space, which is the bit within the quotation marks, and then we've got the account name. Need to make it a little bit wider. In case you're wondering what the sort of the looks a bit squashed. It's just that I haven't quite made the expression wide enough. If I just make that expression a bit wider, there'll be enough space then to fill that information in there. So just preview it one more time. And then again, if I zoom in, you'll be able to see what that looks like. Just get rid of that blurred bit where it was wrapping down to the next line. So I hope that makes sense. It's a nice easy one for you to go through. So it's just an alternative to thinking, well, actually, it's not just for, calculating things like a profit calculation or a difference between two values. You can use it for text as well. So if you think about your invoice layouts, for instance, putting your payment terms at the bottom. You might have a bit of text that, a bit like what we just done with an expression, sort of all payments to be made by, and you might then pull through into that expression the due date. So it looks like one sentence, then it's same format, but actually it's got a standard sentence, but it's then pulling information into those payment terms. So I hope that makes sense, and it's given you a little bit of an idea about the kind of things you can do with expressions. As I say, there is a lot more information available on much more complex expressions and calculations. They're available from our Help Centre. Loads of information in the Help Centre. So you've got the reports and layout section, there's expressions and functions. I've included some links there if you downloaded the handout. These are the links to the some of the more common sort of areas that link to expressions. So formatting rules when building expressions, common expressions, using dates in expressions, and also snippets, which can be used to save you a little bit of time. Right, if you've got any final questions, if you want to pop them in there, I think we're just about on top of the questions that have been submitted for that. But quickly pop them in if you've got any. Remember, you can take that opportunity to download the handout if you want to during the session. It will be included, or a link will be included to the handout on the follow-up email if you forget to do that, or you think, later on, maybe I do want it. So pop your questions in if you have any. Remember, you will get that follow-up email in around about an hour's time. That will include your link to today's recording. You might want to work through it at your own pace. Have a go of that. So you've got that, you'll have that option available. There'll be a link to our registration page and also a link to our other recordings as well. Loads of webinars. Our webinar timetable, it now runs up to and including the end of November. We're also running our next badge, which will be starting the second week of November. It will be to celebrate International Accounting Day for 2025. So there's a number of webinars in there. Do get yourself registered for them as well. We're going to be looking at things like Sage Connect, the AI document capture option. We're going to be looking at part of Copilot, also bank feeds, and there'll be the usual quiz in there as well. So if you are interested, get yourself signed up for those. Those should be towards the top of the registration article itself. Right, we're just about time up. So if there are any outstanding questions, we'll just pick those up separately. We'll drop you an email either later on this afternoon or early tomorrow. But many thanks for attending. Hope you've enjoyed that, giving you some more food for thought, maybe encourage you to have a go, have a little play with that. Again, it's just a report, so you'll need to take a copy of a standard report and then you can start making changes to it. So it'll not let you overwrite the standard reports. So you can't do any harm in that respect. So have a go, have a play. If you get stuck, remember, our support team is on hand. Watch out for your follow-up email, and if you can take a minute to complete that survey, which should pop up as you leave, take you about a minute max, be greatly appreciated. Share your thoughts, any ideas, topics you'd like to see covered, that type of thing. We'll end the webinar at that point, so many thanks, and hopefully we'll see you on some other webinars very, very soon. Many thanks.